Alright guys, this is your basic introduction to the money market model. So we see that here. Basically just going to introduce the concepts. I don't have any markers, we're not going to shift anything, we're not going to do anything like that. So we just want to look at what this model is really showing us. So as its name is telling us, it's a model of the money market. We typically don't think of money as something that is that there's demand for or supply of, but there is. So we have a money supply and a money demand curve. In fact, this model, even though it looks a little bit different, especially with this vertically sloping money supply curve, which we'll get to in a minute, really this is just like the supply and demand model previously that we've done, where we had the y-axis representing a price of a good or service, the x-axis representing the quantity of that good. In this case, the good is just money. So we label our x-axis as quantity of money, okay? Quantity of money, so that is what we have demand and supply for. And instead of this being labeled as a price, because there isn't a price for money, we don't pay a dollar for a dollar, obviously, the price is going to be best expressed as an interest rate, because that's the cost of borrowing a dollar. So in order for us to obtain another dollar, the price, what we pay, is an interest rate. Conversely, if we were to save our money in a bank, we get paid an interest rate. So our price axis is going to be, we're going to label it as interest rate. Now you might notice that I have real interest rate. I have the word real in parentheses here. The reason for that is that this could also be a nominal interest rate, and it wouldn't change anything about what we are going to do. In fact, in future videos, I'm probably going to just label this R for interest rate. Read the question on your test. If it's asking you to draw a model, depending on what it tells you in the question, it will specifically tell you either nominal or real interest rate, in which case you label this axis as nominal or real. I'm going to forego that in most of the videos and probably just label it as interest rate. But keep that in mind, that's something because obviously they're not exactly the same. We have other videos to explain the difference between nominal and real interest rate, so just be aware of that. But that's how we label each axis. Now the next thing, let's stick with money demanded first. We notice that it's downward sloping, just like every demand curve that we have done so far in this course has been downward sloping. The reason that the money demand curve, first of all, what that represents. So why do we demand money? And this actually is important. This might be sounding like I'm saying a dumb thing here, but the reason that we demand money is to make it easier to buy goods and services. That is the reason that we demand money. So we keep that in mind. That's the purpose of demanding money. So what will cause us to demand more or less money? Why is this downward sloping? In other words, why when the interest rate is higher do we demand less money? When the interest rate is lower, we demand more money. And the reason for that is pretty simple, because money, any assets that we hold as money, so we have it as cash or in our checking account, that's money that could be earning interest in a savings account or in some kind of other time deposit or bond account, something like that. So what we're doing is there's actually an opportunity cost for holding money. The opportunity cost of holding money is the foregone interest we could have gotten. Now when the interest rate is really low, that's not a big deal. So for right now in real life, my bank account, my savings account is offering me about 0.05% is my savings account, which is virtually nothing. So there's a very low opportunity cost for me taking more money out of my savings and putting it into my checking account or into cash because I'm not giving up very much. If that interest rate were higher, if it were 3 or 4 or 5%, now all of a sudden I'm giving up real returns. So I'm probably going to keep as much as I can in the savings account, which means my demand for money would go up that curve and it would decrease. Alright, so hopefully that makes sense. The money supply curve is vertical. This one is actually kind of easy because it is controlled by the Federal Reserve in the United States. So we could say a central bank to make it more broad if we're talking about Europe or fictional countries that we'll sometimes do on test questions. So this is controlled specifically by the Fed or by the central bank. They control the money supply, so there is no relationship between interest rates and the quantity of money because they simply control it. So they have the power to increase it, shift it to the right, or to decrease it, shift it left. And as you guessed, there's a video that's going to come up later about that. So the main idea of the money market model is it combines the supply of money, the demand for money, and as a result we come up with an equilibrium, which gives us our equilibrium interest rate. So that's your introduction to money market model. Hope it helps. See you guys next time. This has been a LaMoney production.